You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Thank you so much for joining me today on another Friday review. Looking forward to bringing you totally different topics after last Friday, where I literally went through 25 different books. I reviewed each one over my February challenge that I gave myself to read 28 books in 28 days. And if you're seeing the number 25 versus 28, I explain how I didn't necessarily meet that 28 number, but why that's okay as well. So check that out. I also issued you a challenge for all of March and also really taught you how to read a minimum of one book per month. Super easy to do. And really, I believe that it can take your whole life and whole learning to that next level. And the reason why I believe that is I believe that the more you learn, the more you do educate yourself on a variety of topics, the more growth you experience in life. And I believe that growth truly does transcend into happiness, and it happens over time. You just feel yourself moving forward. You feel yourself accomplishing more things and growing as a human being. And then also that allows you to then meet new people, go to new seminars, and just kind of expand your horizon. When that happens, happiness follows. I truly believe that, but it takes time. So I honestly believe, just follow this journey one step after the other. And that's why I'm just so excited about going down this path of truly teaching these things that I see happen every single day in my practice. And everyone's on their own journey. I really believe that is that some of us, it takes longer than others to achieve what we want to achieve, whether that be health or happiness or relationships or lifestyle or financial or spiritual, whatever it might be. But who's to say that you would be better off had you accomplished it sooner? Like, there's a lot of questions to be dealt with that, because in my opinion, I didn't get well for many years. But I can tell you this, had I gotten well in 6 months, well, most likely I would not have become a naturopathic doctor. Definitely would have studied all over the world in different hospitals and clinics. For sure that would have happened. Would have met so many great mentors and probably wouldn't have read 3,000 plus books. Like, none of that would have happened because I would have had no reason to make it happen. And so that would have not allowed me to be where I am today. And finally, where I'm at today, I can honestly look back and say, it's all been worth it. All the pain, all the suffering, everything I've been through, all of it has absolutely been worth it. And because of that, I can say that I'm happy that I had to go through that. I wouldn't want to go through it again. I'll tell you that right now. I never want to have to go through that again. But having said that, now, if anything like that would have happened in my life today, to family, to friends, anyone in my private practice, and to you in our community, we can help you heal much, much faster. And so maybe that's why I was meant to go through it. You never know, right? That's impossible to ever figure out. Maybe it happened for a reason. We don't know. But what I can say is that I'm on a path now because of what I had to go through in the past. And I'm excited about that. I mean, I'm excited about what the future holds. It never ends because I never stop learning and I never stop being that perpetual student who wants to grow. So check out that show. That was on episode 763, stephencabral.com/763. And that was last Friday's Friday review. Today will be episode 770. Go to stephencabral.com/770. All the show notes will be linked up there. And I'm excited to get right into it because I am really I'm a gadget-based person. I really do love technology. Do I love where some of this scary stuff is headed in terms of like artificial intelligence and all of that? I don't know. That's really up in the air for me. I think that's going to get into a really gray area when we start really getting into robotics and allowing for artificial intelligence to start programming itself. But I think that'll be a conversation for another day. And I'll give you my futurist-based views on healthcare, probably not too much longer, a couple more Friday reviews. And I know, of course, that will be updated, but I believe that this could be a really great thing in terms of healthcare for sure. So I'm excited about that part. But more so, just some of these fun things that we can introduce in our life. So this was it has to be going on 12 plus years now, but back then I read a study that really changed the way that I looked at living in harmony with nature. And it was this. I saw a study that was done with nurses. nurses that worked the night shift in particular, it was found that they lived anywhere from 5 to 7 years on average less or not as long if they worked the night shift continually, like for their career, meaning they worked from, let's say, midnight to 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., meaning like they worked a full overnight shift. And that was really eye-opening to me, is because it was not any one particular individual from many different walks of life. It wasn't necessarily all different ages. It was working nurses who worked overnight versus nurses or the general public that didn't, that worked 9 to 5 and they went to bed typically somewhere around 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, whatever it might be, till 6 and 7 in the morning. So when I saw this and I saw that these nurses, yes, there's stress, there's all of those things, but again, we're not comparing that to nurses who work during the day. They have just as much stress, okay? So we're looking at what changed when someone has to work the overnight shift. And again, this has been repeated multiple times. You can actually just look into this, yourself. Night shift and reduced longevity, all of those things. Here's why. Melatonin is not being produced as it should be. And I talk a lot about this in my upcoming book. I promise it is actually coming out soon. But here's the deal. When melatonin isn't produced, it's a natural antioxidant besides a sleep hormone. It kills free radicals. It helps to remove plaque in the brain. It helps shut down the central nervous system. And it also acts as a very powerful anti-cancer antioxidant, anti-tumor based. These things are very, very important with overall longevity and aging, or anti-aging, we should say. So when we look at the circadian rhythm, we should see, and again, I lab test this all the time with our sleep-based tests and our adrenal hormone tests. I'll try to link those up in today's show notes. But when I test for these, if someone's cortisol is elevated at night, like a nurse's would be, responding to all of these different things going on in the hospital, they don't produce melatonin. And that's because cortisol and melatonin have an inverse relationship. That means if cortisol is up, our stress hormone, melatonin stays low. And this is important because melatonin is also produced when we turn off the lights and when we start to see, when blue lights start to be blocked or there's less blue light in the environment because the sun is setting. Okay, so what does this mean? Let me try to put this in normal speak now. All right, it means this. The body, if producing cortisol late at night, you say that you're a night owl, whatever this is, it doesn't produce melatonin. So you don't get the effects of producing this very powerful anti-cancer, anti-aging based hormone and antioxidant. So what that means is that over time, not in 1 year, not in 2 years, but over time, this could potentially decrease your lifespan. These are things that I'm just trying to bring people into the public. And so now, though, knowing this, let's say you had to work the night shift or many other things, you can use some amazing applications and technology that's been around for some time to actually start to drop levels of cortisol at night, because these levels of cortisol represent stress as well in the body. Now, again, run an adrenal hormone test if you can, or run a sleep-based test if you have any sleep-based issues, and they're amazing lab tests. They really are. I run the adrenal hormone lab panel with thyroid myself every single year. I just want to look at my hormones, my testosterone, DHEA, estrogen, progesterone, cortisol during the day. And that's, of course, because I dealt with a lot of cortisol-based issues in the past, too low. Okay, so let me give you some technology, though. Blue blockers, I've done a whole show on blue blockers in the past. I'm going to put that in today's show notes. So again, all these links, all these special links to previous podcasts, all these technologies, all this stuff will be at stevencabral.com/770, right? 770. Now, there's a pretty cool desktop application that I just found called F.Lux, L-U-X. L-U-X. So here's the thing. Go to justgetflux.com, justgetflux.com, and it allows you for free to download this application, this software. I have it on my work computer and I have it on my laptop. And it will automatically actually start to adjust the lumen or lux, the brightness of your computer. Really amazing. And you can set it so as it starts to get later in the day, just like natural sunlight, it will start to remove some of that blue light. I mean, it's really cool. And you can actually, like, if let's say you're on the fence about, do I want to download this or not? You can go to fluxometer.com, FLUXOMETER.com. And I'll link all this up in the show notes as well. But you can actually see how much your iPad produces, your laptop, your smartphone. Very, very cool. And it will show you at 6,500K in terms of lux, all the way down to 1,200K, which is what it will set your computer to, almost like a pink screen, right? More of the red light than the blue light at night. I love, technology like this. I wish I could get it to work on my phone. The only way to get it work on an iPhone is to actually jailbreak the phone. I don't know if you've ever heard that term before. I choose not to jailbreak my phone, so I'm not going to use that. But there's another app on an iPhone called Koala, Koala. And Koala is actually an app that you can use just like Safari or Chrome on your phone. So if you're looking on the internet at night, it will actually remove that blue light and turn it down for you. So really cool apps. I'm going to link all that up today in the show notes. That will allow you, even if you're not working the night shift, let's just say you're hanging around on your couch, you're looking up things online, whatever it might be, you can use this specific app that will help. And if you're on your laptop working late at night, definitely use justgetflux.com, or I'm going to link up my previous recommendations for blue blockers. So I have two recommendations, one by TrueDark and the other by Swannies. The TrueDark makes I forget if it's called a Nightwalker. It's one with red lenses. That literally blocks everything out. Like if I'm on right before bed, or if I'm on an overnight flight where I'm just trying to pass out, go to sleep, not get any cortisol rise, that does it. But you don't want to read. You really don't want to do anything with those on because it's really blocking everything out. And then TrueDark also makes a really nice day walker pair, and that's for staring at a computer screen. And then Swannies makes a really nice pair too. I'm going to link all that up today in the show notes. So check that out. Okay, so what else do I want to talk about that? Well, just one more thing. There's a product. Let's say you run an adrenal-based hormone lab test, okay? Or you run a sleep-based test. And you find that you have high before bed cortisol. Very simple thing you can do. We use this in my practice all the time. It's called the Deep Sleep Protocol. And one thing you add to it is called Cortisol Manager. Okay, check out the Deep Sleep Protocol. I'll link that up in today's show notes. But simply put, it's a very special form of magnesium that gets into your system much faster. Not one that you would really necessarily use during the day, but you use it before bed. It's a form of magnesium citrate, just an ionized form. So I'll put in Deep Sleep Protocol. It also has some liquid melatonin in there. So great. Why do I love the liquid melatonin? Here's the reason why. It's in and out of your system faster. You don't feel groggy the next morning. I have a big issue if I take melatonin before bed by capsule form because it has to pass through the liver. But I have a different reaction if I take liquid melatonin. It does not leave me groggy the next morning. And the reason is I keep it under my tongue for 2 minutes, just like my CBD oil, which believe me, I want to give you that protocol in the future as well. I don't want to give everything today because it gets confusing, but keep it under your tongue for 2 minutes. And then you can swish it around in your cheeks and then just swallow it. And then, of course, you can brush your teeth, go to bed. Okay, so that's part of the Deep Sleep Protocol. But one more thing you can add, and you would add this if you find you have high evening cortisol on an adrenal hormone test or on the sleep-based test. Okay, and again, I'll link those up at 770 today. All right, so you would take a product called Cortisol Manager. I'm about to talk about why this works so great in a moment. But you take Cortisol Manager by Integrative Therapeutics. Now, here's the deal. It's ashwagandha with phosphatidylserine. Phosphatidylserine is an amazing product, typically from a soy extract, okay? It's not soy, it's an extract from soy. And what this allows you to do is by taking ashwagandha, which I'm going to talk about in just one moment as our super nutrient of the week, but what phosphatidylserine does is it actually knocks down cortisol. All right. So would you use this forever? Absolutely not. But would you use it for 3 weeks to maybe 6 weeks as you're revamping and resetting your circadian rhythm? Absolutely. That is the right way to use this nutritional supplement, and it works great. So, or anytime you're just like really ramped up and amped up at night, maybe you've got a lot on your mind, perfect time for CBD oil, perfect time for Cortisol Manager, 2 to 3 tabs, and you just swallow those about 30 minutes to an hour before bed, and that will knock down those cortisol levels, make you feel sleepy, get you into a nice deep sleep. Okay, so great product, and again, I will link that up today. Next up, I just kind of gave it away, is ashwagandha. Ashwagandha and I have a very long relationship, okay? We've had a long relationship, been about 15 years now, all right? So when I was starting to look into all the different health issues that I had, one of the things I was diagnosed with after a couple of years is called Addison's disease. Now, Addison's disease is the inability to actually produce cortisol. So I was not producing cortisol, and I did this thing called an adrenocorticotropin releasing hormone STIM test. And what they found was that I wasn't producing cortisol. So a simple test, and that was part of my healing process, is finding that out as well. But I then started to take stimulants. I was prescribed medications. And I realized later, after studying functional medicine, natural medicine, with practitioners, of course, because I was not a naturopathic doctor nor a functional medicine practitioner, that this wasn't the answer. The answer was not to stimulate my adrenals, believe it or not. Now, could that help in the short term? Fine, but not in the long term, because the way that I got into Addison's disease was actually because I was too stimulated in the first place. I literally burnt out my HPA axis, and I'll talk about that more in the future. So one of the things that helps you to really reset what's called the HPA axis, it's the way that your brain talks to your adrenals, is to use something like ashwagandha. So let's talk a little bit about ashwagandha. So ashwagandha is really an amazing product. It's an adaptogen, and it comes from Ayurvedic medicine. It's been used for at least 3,000 years, probably more like 5,000 to 6,000 years. And an adaptogen means that it allows you, especially during times of stress, if you start to get overly stressed, it helps to calm you down. But also, if you start to get a little too low, it can help bring you back up. That's what an adaptogen does. And really an amazing product. What I want to do is I actually want to bring you, there's 10 main benefits. This is actually a really nice outline. Usually I don't go by other people's outlines. I just have a lot of my own research that I've done, of course, on nutrients over the years that I've been bringing you this year. But article written by Franziska Spritzler on Healthline that I want to link up today because she did a great job. And I'm a huge believer in trying to boost other health practitioners up. And since she wrote such a great article, why not give her credit? So I will do that. So I'm going to interject a lot of my studies from overseas using ashwagandha and mixed with a little bit of her article because her article actually has a lot of scientific studies. In my opinion, everything natural health based is scientifically based. It really is. So when people say, oh, there's no science behind this, there's no whatever, like if your MD is saying that, your MD or your PCP or whoever it is basically saying to you, if they ever say that, oh, there's no research behind it, they're saying, I haven't taken the time to study anything to do with natural health and to get to the root cause of what's going on with you. Because that's what they're saying. Because there are not 1,000, there are hundreds of thousands of studies on vitamins and on minerals and on herbs and on every natural thing that you could possibly think about. There are entire institutes like the Linus Pauling Institute, so many others, I'm just naming one, that are dedicated to healing through natural scientific-based modalities. Dr. Andrew Saul, he's another great PhD who wrote many, many good books as well on using orthomolecular medicine, which is essentially vitamins and minerals at a higher dosage to heal yourself. I'll talk more about that in the future as well. But let's stay on topic with ashwagandha today. So ashwagandha literally means smell of the horse, which always has been thought to be hilarious when I first heard that over in Sri Lanka. It's a Sanskrit word. Smell the horse. Why does it say that? Well, it's the ability to increase strength. Yes. So I thought, okay, yes, because it makes you stronger, especially as an adaptogen to stress. But the other thing is ashwagandha does not smell good. Like it has a very unique smell. When they said, smell the horse, I was like, yes, this actually does literally smell like a horse, which is kind of hilarious. You have to look past that. It doesn't smell that bad, but it does have a unique smell to it. And it comes from a root. So it doesn't actually come from a horse, but it comes from a root. So it is all natural. It's one of those things that we look at. And its botanical name is Withania somnifera, or at least that's how I pronounce it. So a lot of we'll talk about it in a moment, but a lot of the health benefits are actually from these things called withaniolides. And these help to reduce inflammation. And as you'll learn in a moment, they help a lot with inhibiting or shrinking tumors. So again, am I making claims that can cure cancer? I'm not saying that. But if I had cancer, would I be using something like ashwagandha in a more of an adaptogenic based property, something like the Adrenal Soothe product, which I'll talk about in a moment? Yes, I would. That is absolutely something that I would do. And again, you can do with that what you choose to. So let's get into it. One of the big things that ashwagandha has been known to do is help with blood sugar levels. But keep in mind, well, let me give you an overview. The reason why ashwagandha works so well is that it's been directly correlated with reducing stress. So this is why, even though I look at someone else's article, I always just go off on my own tangent. Because here's why ashwagandha works so well. And a lot of times people have trouble figuring out why these herbs work so great and how it can work as almost like a panacea over so many different things. And the reason why it works is that it helps to modulate cortisol. And if you can't modulate cortisol, you can't become healthy. The reason why it took me forever to get well, because I could not modulate cortisol or my hormones. So my immune system, when cortisol is high, your immune system is low. At least one part of it is secretory IgA. I was getting sick all the time. You can't sleep well. If you can't sleep, you can't rest, you can't rejuvenate. If your cortisol is high, well, you're going to have higher levels, most likely, of blood sugar. And you're also going to dip into hypoglycemia because you use up your blood sugar. it drops, you start to produce more cortisol, then your body starts to either draw cortisol from your liver, from proteins, from muscle tissue, whatever it might be. So, here's the deal. You have to regulate stress. It's a real thing, and it's very, very important. So that's one thing that I look at as well. Another thing that we can look at as well, yes, so I was just talking about it. It helps to people with diabetes or type 2 diabetes. It's another one of those things. Again, Adrenal Soothe is the product that I would use if I had type 2 diabetes. And again, I did have type 2 diabetes. I had type 2 diabetes. I was not on any medication. But again, I did another test for that. I did a glucose tolerance test, and I failed it. After 3 hours, my blood sugar had not come down below the typical parameters, which is under 130. So really, really important to look at that as well. My doctors had no idea what to make of me because I had so many things wrong with me. They're like, how is this seemingly healthy looking, 17-year-old kid have actually, they didn't diagnose any of these things until I was about 19 years old. How does he have this many things wrong with him? And the reason was I simply could not regulate any of the processes in my body. And part of that initially started with cortisol as well. All right. Ashwagandha also has amazing anti-cancer preventative and the ability so it can prevent new cancer cells, but it also, and I will say potentially, we'll just use that as a disclaimer, can help with several types of cancer, okay? Studies are out on this. The studies are already there. It leads to apoptosis of some cancer cells, which means the destruction of or killing of cells by themselves. Your body does it. But it also helps with breast cancer, lung cancer, colon cancer, brain cancer, ovarian cancer. These are all studies. And again, so these are animal-based or mice-based studies, but ashwagandha alone or in combination with anti-cancer-based drugs had a 70 to 80% reduction in tumor growth. I mean, that is amazing. Now remember, the study, this was ovarian tumors, but ashwagandha alone led to this 70 to 80% reduction in tumor growth. So again, if your oncologist or your cancer-based specialist is not talking to you about ashwagandha, I just feel like we're doing people a disservice. Really, really important. Again, I'll link this up. All the studies will be on this page. Okay, can reduce cortisol levels. We already chatted about that in depth. That is one of those things that makes everything better. And I'm going to talk about that in just one more moment as well. Helps to reduce stress and anxiety. Well, again, you're reducing cortisol. You're calming the body down. You don't react in that high stress way. Remember, so let's say someone cuts you off in traffic. Well, if you're using a product like Adrenal Soothe or ashwagandha or whatever it might be, even Cortisol Manager, if you have high daytime cortisol, and again, that would be very specific. You'd have to lab test for that. You would never want to knock down your cortisol during the day, only at night, because that helps with brain healing and the body, only if you lab test it. Okay. So it helps with the nervous system and it helps to really modulate stress. Really, really important to look at. This study was 88% of people who took ashwagandha reported a reduction in anxiety compared to 50% who only took the placebo. Pretty significant clinical difference. 88% of people experienced a reduction, 38% more than the placebo. That's a lot. I mean, that's really clinically significant. All right. May help reduce symptoms of depression. Great thing to look at as well. It showed those who took 600 milligrams per day of ashwagandha reported a 79% reduction in severe depression. Remember, this works great even for severe depression. And the placebo only experienced a 10%. 10%, that's it. So enormous difference. One of the main things this is about 6 years ago now, I helped a company formulate a natural testosterone boosting product. Okay. They came to me. I have extensive study in herbs and vitamins and minerals and how they affect the body. It's just one of those things that I love. And so people will come to me and they'll say, can you help us formulate for the X, Y, and Z? And sometimes I say yes, and sometimes I say no. A lot of times I say no. It really is dependent upon who's asking me. I'm a big believer in the ethical duty all of us health practitioners or any manufacturers have. And this was a company who I felt was ethical and honest, and they weren't hypey, and they wanted to help men not use testosterone boosting supplements, any of those things like that are just really hypey and hoaxy and all of those things. So they brought the typical things like Tribulus, and they had a nice little formula, and they said, can you help us make this better? And I said, let me look at what you have. One thing they were missing that I did recommend was ashwagandha. Ashwagandha has been shown in a number of studies to increase sperm count, but also to increase testosterone. And they thought this was really interesting because they said, well, why would ashwagandha help increase testosterone since there should be no reason for that? And I said, here's why. When you decrease cortisol, when you decrease stress in men, it allows them to produce more DHEA. And when you allow men to produce more DHEA on their own, they then have more DHEA, which can then be converted to testosterone. So when I phrased in that way, they understood it, and then it made sense. And I asked them then, why don't you give this out to 12 or 20 different beta testers. We'll have them lab test with our adrenal hormone-based test before they use the product and after. And they used it and actually showed that it helped to boost testosterone. Now, for men in my practice, all we do is we use the Dr. Cabral Daily Protocol along with the Adrenal Soothe product and zinc. And that allows us to help boost testosterone in men. So again, if probably going to want me to repeat that, it's the Dr. Cabral Daily Protocol. Okay, it's the daily nutritional support shake, so you get all your minerals and your vitamins and all that great stuff. We use the daily fruit and vegetable blend and the daily probiotic. Okay, so that's the three. That's called the Dr. Cabral Daily Protocol. We then use the Adrenal Soothe and we use zinc at 30 milligrams. Okay, and we do that for at least 2 to 3 months. All right. It's also been shown to increase muscle mass and strength. And the reason is almost one and the same. We're allowing the body to produce more of its own natural hormones. One of my favorite is that ashwagandha helps to naturally decrease inflammation. Okay, really, really important. Just genetically, again, I'm not using genetics as an excuse, just unbelievable. I'm unbelievably prone to producing inflammation. I really am, and it's not ideal, but it is what it is. And honestly, it's no big deal because I know how to modulate. I know how to control it. And ashwagandha, really, even at a lower dose, 250 milligrams, has been shown to decrease CRP, okay, C-reactive protein. That's why you have to get your blood checked. Talked about that last Tuesday, all right? Check that out, StephenCabral.com/podcast. I talked about what to run on your blood work. Well, 36% decrease in CRP compared to 6% with a placebo. Pretty amazing. But overall, it helps modulate the immune system. Just a couple more. May help lower triglycerides and cholesterol because of inflammation, because of cortisol, many, many different properties by using that. And then the last one I'll give you is that it's really does an amazing job at overall brain-based function. So when we're talking about Alzheimer's and all those things that I've spoken about before, Parkinson's, this helps to reduce inflammation, helps to reduce stress. There's a reduction in oxidative stress, which is essentially free radical-based damage. And they found that those people, and this was done with men, 500 milligrams of ashwagandha showed significant improvements in their reaction time, task performance compared to men who received only the placebo. So I'm a big advocate. We use it quite a bit in my practice. The product we use is called Adrenal Soothe. I formulate that for Equilibrium Nutrition. And the product that we use, if needed before bed, only if you run a lab test, would be called Cortisol Manager by Integrative Therapeutics. I will link both of those up in the show notes today. If you have any questions, I'm always happy to do follow-ups on this. You can simply go to CabralSupportGroup.com. That is our free Facebook group for asking questions. But also you can write me at StephenCabral.com/askCabral. That's where you can submit your questions for me to answer personally. It does take, I just want to let you know, it does take about 4 weeks for me to answer those on the weekend host calls, but I'm always happy to do that for you. Thank you so much for tuning into another Friday review. I hope this was helpful. And as always, I hope you tune in tomorrow where we start our community host calls. This is where I answer each and every one of our community's questions on the weekend. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. I hope you have a great weekend. I'll talk with you soon. Are you ready to heal yourself and then go on to heal others? If so, the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute can help you discover proven functional medicine protocols that blend the best of 7 different healing disciplines from around the world. I personally share with you the exact handouts and protocols I use in my private practice that enable people to get well, lose the weight, and live longer, stronger. I want to pass this information on to the next generation of health coaches, and that is exactly why I created IHP. We are the future of the health coaching industry, and the skills and knowledge you will learn will make you an in-demand certified health coach anywhere in the world. Although we have many medical professionals taking the IHP certifications, no experience is necessary, and half our members have no previous health certifications. At the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, our motto is a health coach in every home. Our goal is that you take this knowledge and then share it with family, friends, loved ones, your community, or in a practice where you create a career you love and can be proud of. The global IHP community is filled with some of the most kind and caring people in the world, and we can't wait to welcome you into our world soon. For more information or to set up a discovery call with one of our IHP Health Coach graduates, simply head over to integrativehealthpractitioner.org.